kalau memiliki kesulitan semua diri.
South Sudan descends into civil war. Can anyone protect the fleeing civilians? Ken Payumo's story in his own words.
The civilians around the area were in the crossfire of the fighting, and there was no place for them really to go other than our compound. People just streaming in. We couldn't control the amount, and of course you couldn't say no to people seeking shelter and help and protection from us. We didn't ask anybody, are you pro-government or anti-government, so it didn't matter, and we didn't know. We were just there to protect whoever showed up in our gate. The government took over Bor town from the armed groups. They incurred a lot of losses themselves, and but by the time they got to Bor, temperatures were very high, and they were very angry. I'm sure they were also in a state of shock. A senior government official had landed in the airfield. I greeted the senior government official, and he asked me point blank, "Are those people in your compound pro or anti-government?" And I said, "Sir, we don't distinguish. We just help whoever shows up." And we said, "Well, I want to visit later." And I thought that was a great idea, and I was more than willing to support in any way I could. Made the arrangements. But he arrived in the afternoon with at least 80 armed soldiers. And when they came to the gate, it was clear that the intentions were not good. Okay, and you can go with anybody that's unarmed and not in uniform, except media.
Except media. If you don't solve them, you will answer. If you don't answer, you will answer.
They wanted to make their way past me and into the compound. I immediately said, "You can't come in with your weapons, you can't come in with the uniforms, and you can't come in with your cameras because of respect for the internally displaced persons." And they refused. Said, "No, this is our country, our government. You don't tell us where to go." And that's when soldiers started to push past me, and that's when I ordered the gates of the compound closed. It was difficult. Hearing the gates close was probably the loudest sound I've ever heard, because I found myself on the other side with a military liaison officer and another civilian staff, and that was it. That's when the soldiers had cocked their rifles at me and still insisted to come in. And that's when I really just kept saying no. I mean, we had all these people depending on us, depending on the UN inside the compound. Thousands. This was their last refuge. There was nowhere else. I mean, this point was not negotiable. At minimum, they would have shot whomever they thought could have been anti-government. They would have perhaps taken people out and arrested them. There's a multitude of things that have happened, and none of them were good. I really think about it so much before, but afterwards I had time to reflect. I pretty much said goodbye to everything. No, I didn't know what was going to happen, and just had to make an internal decision what was important, and right then and there. And the thousands of people that we were protecting was the most important thing. Then it was back and forth for I couldn't even tell you how long. It could have been a minute, it could have been an hour, but it was what felt like a long time. After they saw that we weren't budging, and somehow they got less emboldened. And I can't say when the pivot time was, when things turned around, but they just at some stage started to get into their vehicles and leave, and that was almost the opposite of what I thought was going to happen next. And but no, I'm grateful that that's the way it ended.